On this special Film Rage interview session, we're joined by Akash Sherman, director of Sings in the Ring, premiering at the 2025 Calgary International Film Festival on September 24th, with an encore presentation on September 27th. With Sings in the Ring, he dives into the world of pro wrestling legend The Great Gamma, exploring identity, tradition, and resilience inside and outside the ring. Akash, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
It's great to be here. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, we could not be more excited. And I was just gushing to Akash. I didn't mean to rhyme with Oshkosh Bagosh. I know you threw that out there so we could use it. But I was just gushing about his film prior to this one. So thank you for making that one too, because that was a great afternoon that I had watching that.
Clara.
Okay, so we're going to play Clara. There you go. So people go look at his back stuff. You're going to love all of it. So we're going to play a game now called Or. And basically I'm going to ask you a question and you're going to answer it with one or the other. Are you ready?
Okay. Yep.
Awesome. So I think this is like calisthenics for loosening your mind and body up. So you don't have to dance, but it helps probably a little bit. All right. WrestleMania or Bollywood Dance-Off?
WrestleMania.
Okay. I was going to say there's no right or wrong answers, but the room that you're in here is very wrestling focused as well. Bryce is a bit of a wrestling geek, so
I'm not much of a dancer.
Nice. Denis Villeneuve or Deepa Mehta?
Denis Villeneuve.
Okie doke. Butter chicken or poutine?
Butter chicken.
All right. Yeah, that's the right answer, except for Bryce.
I'm vegan, by the way. They're both the wrong answer for me.
Well, you can have vegan poutine, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah. Alien or Predator?
Alien.
All right. And the final question, training montage or final showdown?
Final showdown.
Again, no right answers, but I also think
you can't. I mean, you can't have one without the other. But final showdown.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, sir. Congratulations on having the world premiere of your film in your home province. How did you come to know about the Great Gamma Singh?
My dad and my uncles used to watch Stampede Wrestling and All-Star Wrestling, and Gamma was really big out here in Western Canada, and he was pretty much like the only like Punjabi wrestler at that time in those promotions, and that was big. That was big for my dad grew up in small town BC and moved to Alberta, and yeah, he would tell me about seeing Gamma in the ring, and he did tell me about how hated he was, and how there were quite a few like racial chants lobbed at him, but the opportunity to to tell the story of one of my dad's sports heroes, I couldn't pass it up.
Well, that kind of answers my next question, because it's kind of given your experience in narrative features and shorts, it's obviously it's your family that drew you to have this as your first topic as a documentary. Yeah,
and Gamma's story it's very emblematic of kind of a whole generation of immigrants back then, and it's so parallel to my dad's story and my family history. So I was just like, I treated it as if I was telling my own family story. And so family's a big part of that, but in this film, Sings in the Ring, I'd say it's mostly about family, even though wrestling is a really cool backdrop. Getting to know Gamma Singh, he's just such an incredible man. Talking to all these really cool wrestlers, Lance Storm, Chelsea Green, Bret Hart, and they have so many effusive things to say about Gamma. It was kind of effortless. They just placed the camera in front of someone, and they'll gush over Gamma.
It's kind of a good tagline or a T-shirt. Maybe it should be the back of some T-shirts, maybe. So much of the film career that you have done, from when you look at your history, you've spent a ton of time in visual effects. So where did that part come from? Like, I mean, you've already grasped the whole direction. It didn't take you long to get the hang of that, but how did you fall in love with visual effects?
From I think I was like 9 or 10. I made like my first like stop motion short films with like Lego, and I was a big Star Wars fan. So my buddies and I, we used to like fight with sticks, and then I'd use like pretty rudimentary software back then, but turn them into lightsabers. And it was just a lot of experimenting with friends, making fun videos. And then it ended up becoming like a real tool for me. When I made short films in high school, I was really able to elevate them to a level that I don't think anyone would expect from like a 16-year-old. And so, I made my first feature called The Rocket List. I think we did it on a budget of like $4,000 or $5,000 or something like that. And I was able to make it look kind of apocalyptic and all that stuff with the tool of visual effects. And then that's kind of how I got my first jobs in the industry, both here and in Toronto. Was just doing kind of visual effects for other people's projects. And as a director, it's a really empowering set of tools, because I know what can be achieved without breaking the bank. And so, on things, some documentaries do like reenactments in animation and such. And I was like, how cool would it be if we did like reenactments of moments that we couldn't source or footage we couldn't find, and let's do it in like the mind's eye of a kid who's playing with action figures. Because wrestling action figures were big in the 80s and the 90s and huge for like the collector's market. And so there's kind of a built-in nostalgia, a childhood kind of connection to action figures. So I was like, well, let's do that. And so we custom made these action figures and 3D scanned them. Actually, it was with a company called Dreadnought Digital in Calgary. And so, there's a guy, Jeremy and Jack, they were kind of the artists on there, and we had so much fun. And as you know from having seen the movie, there's some fun moments that we created with those action figures. And honestly, props to the producers, Shane Fennessy, and Adam Scorgi and Sonny Sudu. They kind of let me go wild, because as you said, I'm a narrative guy. Docs. I haven't really done much work in the documentary space, so I was like, how can we dress this up? Because wrestling is a really dressed up, entertainment event. It's larger than life. So how can we reflect that in the filmmaking?
It's almost like you have psychic powers or something. Because when we were asking these questions, literally we were going to ask you about the action figures.
And whether they really exist, or did you make them yourself? Yeah, you covered it. We don't even have to ask the question.
But okay, so they're so cool. Like, because I bet you there wasn't a Gamma action figure before, right? Now you've got one. There's a template. Like, when you take this film on the road, are you going to get a whole bunch made and start selling them? Like, I don't know. How much markup is this? Like, people will buy this. Bryce has a wallet. Anything after midnight, he will just buy online. Just send him the link. He'll buy 10 of them.
Yeah, I used to have a problem. I needed someone to like put something on my computer that after midnight I'm not allowed to buy anything, because man, I would get stuff and I was like, I'd be half asleep and just click.
So send them the link tonight.
Yeah, well, we got them special ordered. I off the top of my head, I can't remember the guy's company that does it, but I'm pretty sure it's one guy, and it takes a little bit. It takes like a month or two. And we ordered a bunch of custom action figures, in the costumes. And I'm hoping I get to keep the ones that we used in the film. Maybe my producers might have dibs on those. We'll split them. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be cool to have action figures of Gamma out there for old Stampede fans. That would be like a limited edition run. That would be very fun.
So do they actually look as good as they look on the film and like when you're holding it in your hand?
Yeah, they're quite big. I think they're like 4 or 5 inches or something like that tall.
Wow.
And they aren't toys. They do break quite easily. But as collector's items, they were just perfect to work with.
Nice.
It's awesome. Well, it's so fun in the film, especially the dance number is so awesome.
That's like a. I think people. We shouldn't spoil that.
Didn't come up in the film really, but can you tell us what Gamma did for work after his in-ring career kind of ended?
Yeah. So I think he retired at age 39.
Yeah.
And he's always kind of been loosely involved in wrestling after that, training his son, giving guidance to others. And then he kind of would come back every now and then for certain events, especially when Raj was in TNA wrestling. But as just a regular Calgarian, he has a few like apartment properties. So he kind of just like the apartment manager,
right?
Landlord stuff.
Yeah.
And then I remember he did own like a franchise of I think it's a chopped leaf. It's like decently healthy fast food.
Yeah. I've eaten there.
But but he told me, he's like, it's a lot. I got to go prep all the veggies, all this kind of stuff. And he's getting old. So I think he's like pretty much officially retired, but that's kind of that's Gamma's story after wrestling and also just being a really awesome supportive dad. He watched, Raj play hockey, like AAA hockey. And very supportive of his family.
Cool.
Yeah, that comes through in the film.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
So are there things that had to be cut in the film that maybe you wish you had the time to include?
Definitely. That's one of the hardest parts when you're making a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the challenge of having like 2 main characters because it's kind of split between the 70s, 80s era and then Gamma's son Raj in the current day and that kind of intergenerational story. So it was a challenge like that. We definitely had to cut certain things on the floor. Gamma and Bret Hart have this really funny kind of story that they like to tell that they where they do this up and over move in wrestling and they always mess it up. And but it just kind of became a running joke and they would do it all the time throughout their career. And we were going to do that with the animation as well. But it just like, it's hard to just throw in like a 2 to 3 minutes anecdote that isn't really like connected to the whole story.
Fit. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is really interesting is Gamma actually has kind of like a storybook love story with his wife that involved like a lot of because she's from Puerto Rico and she didn't speak English and he didn't speak Spanish, so he asked her out after a match where she had went to go see, and he hired a security guard from the match to like be their translator.
Nice.
So they managed to keep dating over like a few months, and this guy would always like be relaying everything, and then Gamma had to go to India because of a family emergency. And while he's there, his mom's trying to get him arranged with someone. In Indian culture, there's arranged marriages still kind of back in India. It's kind of like a matchmaking service almost. But then he opens up to his mom and he said, I fell in love with this girl in Puerto Rico and I want to marry her. And so by telegram, he proposes, and little did he know she spent this whole time learning the English dictionary.
Wow.
And she was able to write a letter back. And yeah, it was just this really nice nice, warm love story.
I'm getting choked up, man.
Yeah, and my plan was really to include it. We got them to go through it, but it's tough. You know, there's just so many pieces to making a film, and you do have to keep the momentum going, and that's just kind of its own little sub story, to be honest.
I'm glad it came out here.
Yeah. Well, and again, with your psychic powers, apparently. So it's a pretty big accomplishment in a documentary, at least it is from my perspective, to get someone to bawl their eyes out. So first off, thank you for that. But how tough was it in filming those scenes, especially about Gamma's dad being murdered? Like, how tell us about that.
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess my interview style, I hopefully make it really comfortable for people to open up, and it takes a little bit of time. But I mean, as you can kind of probably tell from watching my last film with Clara, I'm deep. You know, like I go for the deep emotions, and things like love and loss, like those are universal. Everyone's lost someone. And to me, actually, when Raj would talk about his grandma, I was like, this is amazing. I can see kind of into I have a window into your family and how you grew up, and what was important to you, and it's just so pure, like a grandson and his grandma, and that important relationship. And then Gamma with his father, it was going to be a very difficult topic to breach. He's never talked about it before. Like, this is something, like, when I did research, when I first was brought onto the project, like, you can't Wikipedia this stuff, right? This is the stuff the human stuff that you get from talking to someone in a documentary. And when we heard that his father was murdered, we were like, that's a big deal. Like, yes, it's about wrestling, your career as a wrestler, but that's a monumental thing. And Gamma had to take care of his whole family. He had 2 young siblings and his mother, and this all kind of happened around the time he got married, and he had Raj on the way, and like at age like 28, like, to take over and wrestle full time. Like, to me, that's the story. Like this guy, against all odds, is able to raise a great family, have a great career, and be a really good guy at the end of the day. And that, that's the journey. And so I it's interesting having them watch the movie, because I guess it hasn't really been, people's lives don't really get reflected back to them in movie form, right? Yeah. And I think they kind of saw that was very much a turning point and a part of his hero's journey. And so I think that's kind of where I was coming from a narrative standpoint, is what are these major moments in this guy's life? He had the mentor, Bill Persick, who sent him to Stu Hart. He moves to a new city. There are those kind of like charted story points that we get from great tales of heroes, and inevitably there's sacrifice and loss as well. And those moments were very, very heavy, but I think we handled them with a lot of sensitivity and care.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, actually, it's funny when I say I bawled my eyes out. It wasn't just one time; it was a few times. So it was like, yeah, you really nailed it. Which you kind of already sort of touched on it. Again, you have psychic powers, obviously, but because the story, when you hear Sings in the Ring, like, you assume that this is going to be all about wrestling, which there's a heck of a lot of wrestling in it, and unlike my other partners on our podcast, I am not as big a wrestling fan, so just being honest with everybody, but they're very wrestling focused. But this film is so much more. It's about community and family and cultural identity, and just trying to find that balance to be able to tell the story that everybody wants. And you really are telling 2 people's story. But in addition to that, there's a lot of peripherals. We're also getting more about that story. So yeah, you did an amazing job at that.
Thank you. It's tough, but my approach is I just want to tell really organically resonant human stories. And, I was a little worried because I didn't want it to get pigeonholed as just a sports doc or like some cultural piece, for diversity points. Like, it's just a human story. And yes, culture, family, all that stuff is a part of it. But don't get me wrong, in the editing room, it's hard because you're like, are we veering too much? Or like, I wanted to also have a bit of history in there. Like, we had ancient wrestling history, both in India, but then also, it's important to me to touch on Stu Hart and the Dungeon and Ed Whalen and kind of set all that up. And also just like the transition from the territories to WWF.
There was a lot of stuff to cover.
Monumental. There's a lot of stuff in this film, and it's I props to the producers and our editors and everyone working together to be like, all right, how do we get this down to 96 minutes? But it's and then they had this. I won't spoil it too much, but we talked earlier about like a final showdown. And there's also training montages, by the way. We do have those. But I wanted to close the film with this event. So there's dungeon wrestling in Calgary now at the Pavilion, and it's very much like a revival of Stampede Wrestling. It's run by Bret Hart's kids, and they have I can't remember his first name, but Billington. So he's the nephew of the British Bulldog. We got Raj Singh. So this is the kind of a whole new generation of Stampede wrestlers. And, everything's about that pavilion is pretty much the same. And I just thought it'd be like a perfect ending to like have this really epic showdown where Raj is a good guy. His father was a villain and hated back then. And he's now a good guy. And people used to chant some pretty awful things, but now they're chanting for them. And that, to me, was like, oh, this is the perfect ending. And then, again, no spoilers, but Gamma does. He is involved.
Yes, he is.
And there's a special appearance, and something really cool happens. And to hear the crowd chant Gamma, and we just followed him around with the camera, and people are shaking his hands. People are talking to him, and he's treated with so much respect. And I'm like, there's like a really epic fight at the end, but then also it's really quite an amazing experience going to a wrestling match. And I made sure to kind of show the atmosphere, and kids love it, old people love it, like everyone is having fun, and that's what it should be. And so I was not to get too gooey on you guys, but it's a feel good film by the end,
Oh yeah, it's definitely a feel good film for sure. Did you, like, you talk about your family being so onto Stampede Wrestling, but for you, did you really do any of the watch wrestling at all? Like, were you a WW fan?
Like, I remember my uncles and my dad really liked wrestling, so sometimes it'd be on. I was kind of rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin era. I'm a little bit too young to even remember Bret Hart, but I've since gone back and watched a lot of the new generation and the Attitude Era. But it's funny to say I wasn't even alive during Stampede Wrestling.
Yep.
Like it closed before I was born. But I think in a way it's a good thing that I had that kind of curiosity and wonder to deeply learn from talking to people and find this story. And our producer, he actually, there is a bit of heaviness with this film because our producer passed away a couple months ago. Sonny Sidhu, he's in the film, and we dedicated it to him. He's like the funniest guy. He tells a lot of warm memories of stuff in the film. And to have his like knowledge base, he remembers every match. He remembers everything. So he was kind of the encyclopedia. And then I'm, this kind of young gun who comes in with the crazy creative vision and all that stuff, and how to pull this off. And it's a documentary, but I treat it like a movie. It's very much like a movie. We went big with the theatrical sound mix, and it's visually very visceral, and it's fun. It's not your average documentary. And my favorite documentary is Wrestling with Shadows, the Bret Hart one, and that one's so like raw.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that was not going to be the style of this one. This one was going to be a lot more like, there's more pageantry. Like, again, like the way that you have a wrestling match and everything's larger than life. I really just wanted to do that, like, but with the filmmaking.
It's all about
the family.
It's all about the family.
All right. So now the question, really the only question I really want to know the answer to: how do I get official Karachi Vice T-shirt? How can I get one?
We are selling them at the screenings.
Nice.
No way.
Yeah. No, we talked to Calgary Film Festival and Gama and Raj. Usually when Raj is wrestling at the pavilion or in Dungeon Wrestling, he every now and then will sell T-shirts. So we placed a big order, and if anyone wants Karachi Vice T-shirts,
I'm buying one.
Be there.
I'm probably buying more than one.
If it's after midnight, he'll probably buy all of them.
Yeah. No, it was great. The whole crew, we all got the T-shirts, and I wear mine often still, and it's great. I went to an Oilers game during the winter last year, and I just needed something kind of orange just to like have reminiscent colors of Oilers, and I wore my shirt, and I got stopped by about 3 people.
Oh yeah,
who were like, "Oh my god." Like, I haven't thought about Karachi Vice for this long. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And that's just, to me, that's just so fun. Like, every time I have met like a Stampede Wrestling fan or someone who's a fan of Gama Singh, and they figure out that we're making a documentary like this, they just got so excited because it's something they just haven't thought about for a long time, but was clearly a very formative, seminal, thing to watch as a kid back then.
You need to actually just only wear that shirt from now until you get picked up, in major release, and just add an addition on the back. See the doc.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I have to say I'm just so endeared by the wrestling fandom and culture. It's just so fun. Like, it's infectious. I'm a wrestling fan now. Like, I'll usually put the new WWE on Netflix, and I've watched their SmackDown and WrestleMania, and it's cool. Like, I just really enjoy having it on.
That's awesome. So now that you've completed your first documentary, you're now a documentarian. Do you have another itch for something else you want to tell?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I can say about it because I actually literally just signed the contract for it today. But with the same team, I'll say the world we'll be diving into, but it's about like video games and gaming culture, and
nice.
Like I think everyone will say this in the way they grew up, but I definitely feel like I grew up in the golden age of gaming, kind of the late 90s.
Did, yeah.
Yeah, but
But really, it was the 90s.
Okay, I was there late 90s. I would play like Unreal Tournament and all these things, but in those kind of 2000s, there's a company in Alberta who really knocked it out of the park with some really amazing role playing games. And I miss that era, and I feel like a lot of things now in gaming, it's very like online based, subscription based, loot boxes, digital skins, and work employees are just being overworked, and there's just so much to talk about in that space. And so it's a kind of another pop culture driven doc.
Cool.
Nice. Well, my age of video games is Pong. So That goes to show you how, mine was the true.
Mine was a little
Yeah,
after that. Honestly, all I want in a video game is I want a joystick and I want a big red action button that I can just beat the hell out of. That's all I want.
I still grew up playing those games. I would always go to there used to be a restaurant called Red Robin, and they had an arcade. So I grew up playing Pac-Man, and my dad and I would just spend quarters all the time playing those games.
Nice.
So yeah, I agree. There's something kind of magical to those arcade games.
That's awesome. So that's it. That's our entire questions for you. Thank you for joining us. And I guess, is there any final words you have? And of course, if you can tell all of our listeners how they can worship you from afar, like we do here on Film Rage.
Well, let me first ask you, what were your guys' favorite part of the movie?
Bryce, you go first, because he's the wrestling fan. So,
or favorite element to the movie? Honestly,
my favorite. I kind of lost my mind when we started covering Muck and Sing, because I've got so many memories of Muck and Sing, and the guy was just hilarious. And I was glad that you touched upon the way he had this banter with Ed Whalen, that they worked at it like a comedy duo, man. They were so perfect together, and I'm glad you touched upon it. That made me smile so wide.
I put it quite late in the film, so I almost kind of I wanted to make people sweat. Like, are they going to skip the crotchy vice? Are they just not going to talk about it? But then I gave it its full segment. We talk about Mike Shaw, Mike Shaw's, and no, I love that part.
Yeah, did you know about the rest of course, he was Bastion Booger in the WWF.
Yeah, he had quite a
he had all sorts of
slimy persona.
And WCW he was Norman the Lunatic for a while, and he's done it all, man.
I mean, again, like my dad, my uncles, they got a kick out of it. Yeah. This big white guy in a turban who converted. It's just so funny.
Good.
It's just so ridiculous and so awesome.
It was beautiful.
Oh my God. For me, it was all the scenes from the dungeon. Like, I couldn't stop laughing at the dungeon scenes.
Stu
Hart was just, oh my God.
And then we take your elbow and we bend it back here.
It was
your lips are going blue.
Your lips are going blue.
We were cutting that sequence. I was like, guys, this is just hilarious. We just have to go for comedy here. Yeah. I was initially like, oh, it's gonna be so painful and scary and all that kind of stuff, and then it's just you're watching it, you're like, oh my God, this is sadism.
Yeah, I didn't laugh as hard in a lot of films that I had at that point, for sure. But for me, also, it's the heart of the film, like not that scene, but the actual heart of this film. Like I said, if a movie makes me cry once in a film, then to me it already puts it. We have a term in Film Rage called Mondo. So if it's almost a measuring stick for me. If a movie makes me cry, it's Mondo. Well, I cried 3 times in your film, so it's like Super Mondo. So yeah,
guess that makes it triple Mondo.
That's right.
Right on.
So very, very well done. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Thanks, Ragers, for listening. As a reminder, tickets are available to see Sing in the Ring at the Calgary International Film Festival. As Bryce had mentioned, it has 2 showings. September 24th at 6:30 p.m. at the Globe Down. September 27th at 11:45 at Chinook 14. Make sure to grab your tickets at ciffcalgary.ca before they sell out. That's it for this special Film Rage interview session during CIFF, where you can find out everything about the festival at ciffcalgary.ca, including a place to buy your tickets and future t-shirts.
Yes. I am so excited. Karachi Vice t-shirts, baby.
I'll also say this fall, they haven't officially announced it, but it will be on a streaming service as an original. I'm not even sure if I could say which one, but it'll be available in Canada this fall for everyone to watch at home.
All right,
but everybody see it in theaters because it's big and it sounds awesome.
That's perfect. So I can rewatch it many times.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Until next time, rage on.
Rage on.